Rebecca with Beck's Fine Art, and are you ready to paint a galaxy? Yes, right? So I'm sure you probably have some brushes and you're like, well, don't really get the right look with the brushes. Exactly my thought. So instead, we're gonna use beauty blenders, which you probably totally saw, right? I have a whole jar of them. Yes, beauty blenders is how we're going to make a totally awesome galaxy. So let's get started. All right, so let's look at our supplies. So I love Liquitex for my galaxy colors. So you definitely need white. And then if you're going for like the typical colors you see, we're going for some blues and purples. So I'm using the pink instead so I can mix it with the blue. So ultramarine blue and then primary blue is really pretty. And I'm going to try to do this just with the beauty blender. So here's my other tool. First, you'll need a canvas. Now you don't need to have a black canvas. I just happen to have a black canvas that was a smaller size, so this is what I'm using. And if you haven't guessed it, you'll also need some water and a paper towel for cleaning off your beauty blender. So here are my three colors. I'm going to start with the background colors first, so I won't be using white straight away, and I put them all next to each other so I can kind of blend them together on the palette and create new colors before I do it on my canvas. It's up to you which side of the beauty blender you want to start with. For doing the background, I suggest starting with the fatter flat end just so you can cover more ground. Actually start with a combination of my two blues, and I don't really have a plan for this. I'm just adding some background color to start, so just smudging it onto the canvas and sort of seeing where it takes me. Again, this is just for our background, so it doesn't actually need to look like clouds yet. We're just establishing those darker shades. All right, so I'm not totally done with the background yet, but you can see I'm doing a mixture of dabbing really quickly as well as sort of smudging in a circular motion just to really get that color blended into the canvas. So I'm just going to continue to build upon these base layers as the paint starts to dry, because you'll notice like in here, it's starting to get a little bit dull. So I will be adding another layer again just to the background, so I'm not worrying about making anything look like galaxy clouds just yet. Okay, so now I've got my base colors down, so you can see the areas where it's a little bit lighter is where I've layered a little bit more paint. So next, you'll want to make sure you rinse your beauty blender, and then you're going to start to blend white in with your colors. I'm not going to be actually defining my cloud shapes yet. I'm just going to be lightening up areas. So I've just gone ahead and mixed some white with my primary blue on the pointy end of my beauty blender. And I'm going to continue that same technique of dabbing the beauty blender as well as using the side to soften that, because again, I'm just creating some lighter areas for contrast. And then once I'm done with that, I'll go ahead and really establish those more precise cloud-like shapes. So again, dabbing with the pointy part and then softening with the side part to lighten these areas. See that I've got some lighter areas now. I had a little mess up right there where I had some white on my beauty blender and I didn't want that there. So now that things are starting to lighten up, now I can really add more white and concentrate a little bit more on the definition of the clouds. I don't like to use just straight white because I feel like it makes them look a little bit too much like regular clouds instead of galaxy clouds. So again, I'm doing a nice light blue, and I'm barely pressing down with the beauty blender in order to define where some of these cloud shapes are going to be. I am still using the side to blend them in a little bit more than it just being like, ooh, there's a dot. No, I want to actually blend in the sides with it. And then if you really want to be more detailed, you can kind of pinch the end of your beauty blender and use it almost like it's a piece of chalk or a pastel or something. So adding some nice lighter shades and starting to define where you want those lightest highlights of your clouds to be. And then you can always go in and add darker shades back into this if you feel like maybe it's getting a little bit too light, or maybe you feel like you overdid it in some area. This is all about blending and lots of layers. So you'll notice that I like to kind of go in between doing the highlights and then going back in with the original color and adding details and shadows into it. So like I said before, it's constantly about blending and layering. So when I add some shadows, I'm just very lightly pressing the Beauty Blender, the pointiest part, to the canvas and sort of just working this color in between the clouds just to break it up a little bit, give it some texture. And then when I feel like I've done too much, I can always go back and add more white to it to add back in those highlights. Another fun thing that I like to do, which is really why I like using the Beauty Blenders, is you can wipe off a lot of the paint and you can see here, I can get these interesting like hints of cloud textures like what you see up here, where you just barely have any paint on the Beauty Blender and you just sort of press it using the shape to your advantage to create some softer, just more distant textures for these clouds. Without actually painting like anything really heavy. So that's another technique that I like to use with this. So we'll finish it up and then I'll show you how to add some stars. All right, so this is the only part that you'll need a brush for. Unfortunately, there's just not a good way to do it with a Beauty Blender, and that is to add stars. So all you need to do is water down some white paint, take a good flicking brush, so a brush that has little bristles is what I like to use. Bend the bristles back with your finger and then gently flick the paint onto the canvas, and you can add as many or as few stars as you want just to really finish it up. And really quickly, if you want to add some bigger stars that are more controlled, I actually have this nail art tool that I use as a star dotter. You can also just use the end of your paintbrush, so the wooden or plastic end, like you can see I've done right there. So I just like to do this to add a little bit more detail to it and just intentional stars in certain areas. All right, I hope you guys found this helpful. Alright everyone, I hope you enjoyed this video, and remember, if you want to do a galaxy and you're having a hard time with brushes, go to your makeup drawer and grab some Beauty Blenders, and I guarantee you'll be able to make a galaxy in no time. As usual, make sure you like and subscribe, comment if you've got any questions or any techniques that you would like to see, and all my social media channels are @BexFineArt. See you next time!